So hello, my name is Nate Wengert. I am going to introduce friction fire making. So whenever you're in a group of people and they say, introduce yourself with your name, where you're from, and an interesting fact about you, it's gonna always be kind of fun to say, I can make fire with sticks. That always turns heads. You've seen the guys or the bamboo. This is the bow drill method, which is another form of friction fire. The anatomy of a friction fire, you're gonna have the fireboard, bow, a spindle, the coal catcher, and of course the socket. So having a stone socket, since it gets nice and polished up, it's not gonna be taking friction away from where you're wanting to have it. In order to make a tinder bundle, let's take a piece of jute, yay length. So then taking apart the strings, the smaller the fiber, the more likely you are able to get to a flame. It's really a lesson in patience. Making fire with friction is all about having everything you need necessary prepared beforehand. All it takes is a little bit more preparation. Of course, more than if you're going to get a full on fire, you're also going to want to prepare small kindling, the bigger sticks, everything there ready in order to have a fire. Gotta rough it up. You can do that on a stone, just enough to get a good nest going. Loosening up a lot of the fibers. Taking from the outside and pushing it into the middle. So from there, we want to get some of my wood shavings here. We want to take this also, put it into our tinder bundle. Get all the big pieces. This is what's most important, getting the smaller fibers. Now sometimes when you want to use a smaller spindle, you're going to drill right through the smaller surface area that are on the spin. You're going to go right through these. And so if you're wanting to keep your set longer, something to try your skill on is having a much wider space with the same bow movement. It's going to spin the thing a lot faster. It's like a way to level up on your bow drill skills if you get a bigger spindle here. Let's make a new hole right here. You want to dig a little notch in there in order to get the tip of the spindle to catch right there in order to get a good hole started. So in order to get a hole started, I like to do it this way. You want to have the ball of your foot on the board. So a good way to do it is stick it right there in the belly button. Get this to go. And then you want to stick that there. Grab your spindle. And then we're just going to make a hole now. Check out the distance on that. This is an important thing. Our pointiness on it kind of went completely flat. The reason for that is the board is much harder than the spindle. Now the ideal setting is where you get the same wood for each thing. So we're gonna kick this out of here. Sometimes you didn't make the board and the spindle from the same piece of sotol. One of the agave plants that comes out in the desert further south here in southern Utah and Arizona. These went together. So I'm gonna just sharpen up my point here and then use this piece of sotol yucca with the spindle, and then we should be good that way. So how to carve, you want to just cut up into the center, not all the way across, but just kind of sharpen it like a pencil. Going around, making sure you grab it at the same level there. We want to get a lot of friction, a lot of surface area. So the reason why we're able to make a fire is when you have two woods rubbing together, you're going to get a powder or sawdust. We call it punk. If it collects around here, then your chimney needs to be improved. It goes into the center, but then it also has a place to escape. So it'll collect right here, cuts in as a V, but then there's also a V coming out this way, which is where the punk will collect. And as the friction between the spindle and the board increases to around 500 degrees Fahrenheit, that is where the punk that has collected will ignite and form into a coal, but it's only a coal. You need to take it over to the tinder bundle in order to blow it into a flame, and then that flame goes to your kindling in order to make the fire. So that's kind of how it all goes. So let's get it started. Now it's important to do it in a way so that the loop from the bow goes around the spindle on the outside. You don't want to have it coming in here to the inside, which is going to be problematic because you can get longer bow strokes, and that's an important part of getting the temperature up, using as much of the bow as you can. You don't want to teeter-totter your bow strokes while you're going, and keep it nice and steady. The ball of the foot's going to go right there. The center of your weight is going to be right above it, and then you're getting your shin, you're kind of keeping it in and back, so it goes from the hole to your shin to the center of your chest, so that your wrist right here can lock into your shin, holding your socket very firmly to keep it from wobbling. That is your enemy. You want to keep everything as steady as possible. And then of course you're going to be bowing back over here, not this way. Sometimes you have some false starts. So what happened there was my pressures weren't balanced. The pressure of pulling back on the bow was more than my pressure of pushing down. Sometimes you can be bowing like crazy and you're not getting any smoke because you need to put more pressure down to increase the friction. Long bow strokes. And once you start smoking, you don't want to stop. You want to keep it going. You want to sing the ABCs. When you're tired, you got to really bow hard to get the temperature up. When you see that you have punk, get it going. Okay, that should be good. So we got a coal. So you can see when it's smoking on its own, that's when you have a coal. You want to give it all the punk. Punk is gold. Let it breathe. Oh, we don't want to get it in the wind. Put a hole in there. Get all the punk in there that we can. Now, of course, I'm gonna make a little hole. I'm gonna use some chopsticks here. If you need to take a break, just let some air get into it. Sometimes you have to adjust. There we go. And once again, we have fire. Yeah, sometimes it's pretty brutal on the eye. This is when you put it on your fire, you put your kindling on there, build it up to a big fire. So that's how you do it. It takes a lot of patience. As you can see, everything has to be just right. It's a practice of balancing all the elements that go into a process in order to, and practicing patience in order to make something happen, so that the small coal when you get the temperature up high enough, can go from the small fibers of the punk to the small fibers of the tinder bundle to the small twigs until eventually you can be burning big logs. And I'm Nate Wingert. Thanks you for tuning in.